So again, you're here to be seen, search engine optimization, SEO basics for schools. My name is Brandon, your host, and we will explore this topic in about a 30-minute time frame and then leave some time for Q&A. So with that said, let's dive right into it. First, with a little bit of an overview. If you're unaware of how Google really works or search engines in general, they really send out a program called a bot that crawls and analyzes websites. It actually copies and indexes them into a database, and then it uses many attributes and factors to determine how they rank those pages in order to return certain result orders, like why are some towards the top or towards the bottom when there are millions, if not billions of websites. And so there are so many factors. We don't want to get into all of them. I'm just going to summarize them throughout this presentation. I think Google uses over 14,000 attributes to sort of warehouse their index and rank sites and pages. So it's very complex and sometimes feels overwhelming when you're trying to get the whole picture instead of just focusing on putting one good foot forward at a time, which is really how you should start with SEO and what we're going to talk about. So over the last 30 years, I think Google was really founded really around that to late 90s and became something that we can't live without. So it tells you how SEO came to be, because search engines over the last 30 years became a critical route where people pick up their devices and they put in some keywords or now prompts, and it returns websites in an index in a ranked order so that obviously if you're towards the top of that index, you get more clicks. That's how search engine optimization was born. What is it? It's exactly that. It's the methods, the practices, the processes, the things you do to make your website more visible to these tools. It's not exactly the same as what we call GEO or LLMs or AI search. All three of those terms kind of mean the same thing. That's a new sort of spin on this, but there's a lot of overlap with what we call generative engine optimization that goes along with search engine optimization. Essentially, what you're trying to do is exploit the attributes so that your site comes up towards the top. At least that's how search engine optimization really started, was businesses who were trying to teach people how to exploit search in order to get into the top results. Now it's just become more about best practices and having a good site, because these search engines are now very smart and are really grading you on your whole user experience. Here's some very simple examples to kind of put SEO under a more concrete, finite way of looking at it. For example, ensuring your pages are properly set up with headings, H1s and H2s. That's a very old school way of doing things. That sort of HTML markup has been around for decades. I mean, it's just as old as I am, and yet people still don't always use it properly on their website or in papers that they write. You got to have headings. Review the page metadata, having proper meta titles, meta descriptions. I literally have had customers who find out that a lot of their metadata has been out of date for years. They're mentioning things that have changed and they just never updated it. So it's very important. So those are just a couple concrete examples of what SEO really is about. Let's go a little further with that though. So then why talk about it? Why do it? And why, if I am a website editor or content maintainer or a marketing person at a school, why am I going to concern myself with it? And why am I going to do it? Well, you want to generate and maximize traffic to your website, right? The people are searching. If they're searching something that is relative to who you are, you want that organic search, people who find you through search, to arrive on your site. Now, stats are already out there. You can go look it up, but more than 50% of search is going to come from organic search, unpaid organic search, where people are just searching and your business or your school come up in that search. And it's greater than all the other sources combined. It's more than 50%, so more than all the other ones combined. Therefore, there's a large incentive to make sure that your website is performing well with SEO. And more than that, more than clicks and clicks equaling money, more than that is the fact that SEO and the practices that guide SEO, they overlap with general website best practices, as well as with best practices for accessibility and really mobile friendliness, responsive design. So what you do to your website has a lot of overlap with that. As a matter of fact, Google cares a lot about best practices, mobile responsive design, performance, and accessibility, because it technically uses all of those when it's analyzing your website. So just doing general best practices, you're already on your way to maintaining good SEO on your website. Okay. Which could mean hopefully more visitors, more donations, more alumni coming to events and registrations and applications from prospective students. So that's why we do it. Now, what are the components? What are the ingredients that generally go into this cake called SEO that we need to bake? Well, starting with the content. This is the actual front end information. This is the stuff that you see on the website, your visitors see, your images, the text, the videos, the things you see. Then there's the structure. How is it organized? What are the names of your pages? How are you linking to pages? The structure of the website and the organization, it does matter. And I've seen a lot of schools that, not maintaining good structure, having too many pages in the top level navigation or secondary navigation, or just too many pages in general. That's bad on your content and your structure and organization. Next, back-end information. This is the stuff that generally, when you think about SEO, a lot of people think of this back-end stuff, or there are a lot of people who it never crosses their mind, out of sight, out of mind. What is the back-end? Well, I mentioned one, meta titles, meta descriptions, the stuff that Google sees, but you as the website content editor, you don't pay a lot of mind to it because it's out of sight, out of mind. You don't generally see it when you're on your website. The alt text for images, that's another one. The backend information of things, the coding, the markup. There are things you can control as a part of maintaining your website. Then, of course, there's the wildcard ingredient, the search engine coding and algorithms, the large mess of programming that went into coding out a search engine tool to evaluate a site, which are constantly changing, by the way. These suckers are dynamic. The Google of today is not the same Google from 1998, and thank goodness for that. And I remember, late 90s, early 2000s, when Google would change their SEO bot and their page rankings formula. And if you used to be number one and now you're like not even in the top 10, people would lose their mind. I tell that story to frame this, that you don't have control over that, and SEO is never 100%. And you need to pack your patience when dealing with SEO because it's a game that's played over time, and that the goal is constantly in motion. So it's not one and done. And more than that, as time has progressed, search engines again have gotten wiser to say, well, they're measuring the entire user experience, high quality user experience for all. That's why in like 2021, Google started looking at, say, accessibility related signals, like the alt text and images are a big part of SEO, but that also overlaps with accessibility. So if you don't have alt text on images, then screen readers can't pick it up. So search engines will penalize you for that. That's a concrete example of what I mean by that. And that's a simple one to avoid at that. So they're still evolving. Matter of fact, it looks like in 2025, you're going to see more emphasis on this quality user experience is where they're heading. So let's get into more concrete things like, Brandon, okay, that's all of this stuff and learning what it is great. But tell me here at my school as a marketing director who's trying to learn more, or communications director at my school, how can I start getting into this? Well, let's start with the basics. We all have a browser. We're on a computer to come to this meeting. You can go to Google and Google yourself. Like I put in the word Rediker, and as expected, Rediker is the first website to pop up in that search. And you can also notice what we call meta titles and meta descriptions. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm just glancing at it, but I also continue to scroll and see what else comes up. I see if any other competitors comes up. I start glancing at, I like that I see 2024 here, right? We try to look at, what am I seeing here? Some relatively newer dates with videos. Some of our recent videos have come up. We're just looking to see what is coming up by the search engine. What does the search engine see? That's a great place to start. I think that's an underestimated place to start. People overthink SEO. It's like, we'll start at the beginning. Google yourself. That's all. Pay attention to what's there. See if anything stands out that's outdated or incorrect. See if your competitors come up when you put in your school name. That could be a problem. Or a phrase that you think you should be in the top 10 and you're not. That's the kind of thing we're trying to get you to think about. Scan your site. That's an easy one as well. Again, using Google Chrome as your browser, You can literally hit F12 on the keyboard, talk to your IT guy if you don't know what I mean by this, go to your developer tools and go to Lighthouse and then run a quick scan. I'm not going to do it just because it takes a little bit of time. By the way, these numbers can change, especially this performance one. It's very fickle depending on, am I running Zoom and recording? Am I doing other things on my internet? Your performance can actually be hindered by your device and your internet connection. I've seen this where it gives me a 78, an 88, or a 96. This last time it did a 94. So I pay, as long as this is close to 90, I'm usually pretty happy. Now, I was a little shocked that it's giving me on this demo site a 100 because those are like unicorns. Occasionally I can get 100 on a couple of these numbers, but I want you to notice all three of these things that it's doing: performance, load time specifically, accessibility, best practices, use of H1s, and there's a lot of overlap. And then your SEO, it's looking at meta title, meta descriptions, alt text. It's a great baseline number. So again, if you see not good numbers, ask yourself why. And guess what? If you click on these things, it'll actually break down why. It'll actually tell you. It's not the Holy Bible, if you will, of using SEO or listening to it, but it's a great place to start. And it teaches you about core web vitals and how Google runs and what it's looking at. And it tells you some things that you could possibly look at on your own to help fix that number for yourself. Okay, so it's a great launch pad. And then, of course, if you are somebody who has just recently launched a website or made major content updates, you should think about logging into Google and setting yourself up with a Google Search Console. It's a free tool from Google. You can get an account with it. Go submit your sitemap to Google. We basically say, hey, dear Google, here's my list of pages. Go crawl it. It will eventually likely find your website and then categorize it, scan it for you. But why wait? Especially if it's a new website, go ahead and do it. But regardless of these three launching points, don't lose your mind. Things aren't what you want them to be initially. It takes time. Even if you submit your sitemap to Google, I want you to know that Google actually uses time as one of the attributes. And what do I mean by that? It uses data gleaned over, say, 30 days to give you a full real score. And that's why you can see the number move, because it's actually always analyzing your site. They could be changing things with their own code, but it also has a lot to do with, it uses input from people who surf the site, how long they stay on a page, what buttons they click, to help determine if it's good quality data as well. So don't think about this as saying, oh, it's one and done, and if it's not good, and then I just do these things and I'm good again. No, this is really a game you're playing with search engines. Okay, so basic strategies then, takeaways, and then I'll get into some tools that you can go home with, especially if you are a RediSite customer. And if you're not, then we're doing a shameless self-promotion for the RediSite platform, which I happen to love. Now, keywords, brand identity, content management and updates, link building, review and maintain. Those are the 4 key strategies that if you just do some basics with these 4 things, you're probably going to be in good shape. And they're not even that complicated. The first one is more about just knowing yourself, believe it or not. Knowing who you are, your identity, your goals, your values, your target audience, one specific target audience. By the way, this is right off the bat, schools sometimes fail at this very first sort of hurdle, because they're going, oh, but we have athletics and we have alumni and donors and prospective families and current families and. No. Pick a lane. You have to be the guide of your brand identity and say, well, our website should serve a specific purpose. Will it always have multiple audiences? Of course. But the goal with the website is always to know who you are and then who your target audience is. Therefore, that you'll do this next part, picking up keywords, prompts, and phrases that you're going to use and is targeting that audience. So for example, if you are a Christian school and Christian value is top priority, then you're going to aim towards, say, a prospective student. If I'm a high school, then my prospective target audience is a high schooler who's looking for a Christian school experience locally in my area, and or the parents who might be looking for that kind of thing. But then you say, oh, but I also have athletics, arts. Okay, but what is priority 1 of who you are? Don't let those share the same level of importance per se. Pick one that's the most important and run with that as your brand identity, your goals, and your target audience. Who we are, what we offer, and who are we targeting. And then use that throughout, especially with call to actions. Your journey starts here on a Christian education. For Christian education, come to join our family, and then buttons that take you to more about the application process or student life, and using those keywords on your page names, headers, H1s and 2s, meta titles and descriptions. Don't overstuff it. This isn't your Thanksgiving turkey that we just passed that holiday. There is something called stuffing. I've heard it called different things by different people. And John, Jas, if you've got any thoughts on this one, but it's where people do it old school and try to overuse keywords, but now can be penalized. I don't know if you've heard that as well.
That is correct, Brandon. You have to be careful not to use an older technique like that used to maybe have some weight with Google 20, 30 years ago. Like you were mentioning, they're always evolving how they read websites and how they rank websites. So you have to be very sort of specific about where you use those keywords and
That's
not overuse them. And as you've said many times, speak very honestly about who you are and what you do. And that's always your best approach.
Yeah, so when you're using key phrases basically throughout your website, you want to make sure that those keywords are naturally added throughout the content so that it doesn't look like you are, keyword stuffing. Google will penalize you when they notice that you are overusing those keywords. As long as it's naturally flowing through your content and it's for your visitors, it's educational, then you'll be fine.
Excellent. Thank you both for that. Yeah, it's all about a brand score, isn't it? It's all about the website's looking at the total package, and keywords are still a part of it, but they're not as important as they used to be. It's more about what we're about to flow into is how you use those keywords and prompts in a sort of elegant, artful way. And that comes to your content. Content is really the meat and potatoes of SEO, right? Keep it simple, by the way. That's another key takeaway. If you're saying, oh, if there was one key takeaway, keep it simple. Make your site small. Make your site small but high quality. I think what happens with schools, I see this with public schools especially. I know Jas can second that because we've worked together on websites where they just throw everything. They try to nail jelly to the wall, right? They're throwing everything in the kitchen sink at their website. And then you end up with just a mess of pages that are super outdated and probably weren't good pages to begin with. So think about having fewer high quality pages. I also had recently somebody as a marketing director tell me they worked at a university that had an 8,000 page website. And I said, how did they maintain it? And they honestly said, well, they don't. That's why I was hired. It's you can't sustain that level of pages as far as making them both quality and fresh. You can't do it. Because on this slide, I would say the theme here is quality and freshness more than quantity. And so having some pages that are just well done is a better user experience, which, by the way, if you have a smaller page, it's less work for it to scan your site. The accessibility, it's more user friendly, it's more mobile friendly. It's just a good user experience when you do the less is more. I would rather have an 8-page website, 8 to 10 page website, than a 30 plus page website, especially if you can throw things out that just are clutter. There is a clutter score too, by the way. I'm using all these words, but keep page names short and relevant and headings as well, fewer pages. And then page content, as Jas had pointed out, use those keywords, phrases written for people, semantically geared towards your audience. By the way, AI generally can pick up whether or not a site was written with AI. Although we do offer an AI tool to help improve your writing, don't use AI to write all of your content. Use it to help improve your content, but it wants to see real worldly content written for people, not you engaging in what I call SEE, search engine exploitation, like the stuffing piece. They've elegantly figured out who's doing what to their site, and they have warning flags. If I see this word more than 60 times on this 8-page website, you're stuffing the word. Okay. Headings. You got to be using H1s and 2s. That's good for SEO, accessibility, mobile friendliness. Occasional bold words. You can't make every word in a paragraph bold, but key phrases and words in bold actually help AI, help SEO. It helps users, right? Just looking at your page, like I've done here, and I've called out certain words. They stand off the page. That's what bold is for. Multimedia, use it. Having video and having images is also a benefit to your website, but they also have to have the alt text or closed captioning if you're doing video. Name association. That's actually one that I was aware of, but I realized it's becoming more and more important, which is search engines like identifying a person's name or email or phone number when you say, yeah, and look, this is our admissions director is on the admissions page. That's actually a name association, and that's a good thing. Okay. And number one on here, content is also up to date. Quality and freshness is way more important than the quantity. And I think schools fail at this message a lot of times because they try to put everything. I got a new lunch menu, go slap it on the front homepage. Nah, that's what other tools like the portal is for your parents to go find something day to day. Okay. Your website needs to be tailored towards that goal, and the content should be written as such. Here's an easy one. Link building. It's old school. It's still used by search engines, but it's actually grown to be a larger pot of links. It's not just about external, aka backlinks, meaning links to your website from other places. They now analyze and say, well, I can't just have a bunch of copied, duplicated trash sites that are linking to your website. People used to do like, hey, I'm going to translate my website and then have a translated version of my website and have all of those count towards backlinks. That was when people used to try to trick the search engine. It's about high quality links. Social media accounts can help with backlinks. Having an account linked to your domain and then publishing content that have links to your website. Those are backlinks. Reviews on platforms build backlinks. People talking about you in niche or Yelp or Google. Those are backlinks, right? Feeder or partner schools. Since we're talking specific to schools, I worked at a high school for many years. So if we had elementary and middle schools where a lot of the students came to our high school from those schools, going and approaching those organizations or feeder schools and say, hey, how about you put a link to my site and I'll put a link to yours? That's another way to build backlinks. Or let's talk about internal links. Search engines also analyze the structure of your website, the navigation, the calls to action, the page links, the flow within your content that then links to other relevant content pages. It likes to travel to those links and analyzes those to see if those are also high quality. And how does it know? There's flags and signals that it looks at. How many people clicked on it? That helps tell it whether it's important. How long they spend once they go to that page also is a signal. Whether they exit after going to that page is also another signal. So internal page structure has become almost equally as important as these external backlinks. So that's why I know Jas and I, when we design a website, that we always focus on your landing page, your homepage, and making sure there are relevant call to actions that link to the About Us page or the admissions page and calling to your user to go to these dominant content pages. Very, very important, as well as your navigation structure. All right, last but not least on the SEO front is reviewing and maintaining it. This is not a one and done. This isn't like ding, 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 the round starts. You knock down SEO. Oh, I win. Greatest boxer ever. No, this is an ongoing effort. Do this once a year even. Here's a suggestion. Think about before the holidays or around Thanksgiving is a great time to just do your annual check. Search for your school, like I suggested. Go use the Chrome tool again. Go and update the site. Make updates to your site and content, semi-frequently. But this, even if you did it annually, because remember, freshness and quality. Double check so that as you go into the admission season, it's just as logical that you're double checking your website so that prospective families, donor, and alumni, you're double checking to say, is my website in good shape for them? Look it over. If something doesn't look right or read right, great time to update it. You see outdated photos that have been there for 5+ years. Hey, go get some photos, update them. Now let's get to the tools, and that's where we're going to leave here. At the end here is leave you with some tools that Rediker offers as part of the RediSite platform. I can't speak to what tools are available on all the other platforms, but I most certainly can show you some of these. Built-in stats. Our platform, I had done this for many, many years, and I've used many different platforms. Not all of them offer built-in anything for SEO. Between Jas and I, I'm sure we could name a half dozen or more different website hosting solutions or platforms that we may have even used over the years. and can tell you that they just didn't have a native sort of SEO component to it. Now, some of them have had to up their game to try to keep up with the times and are starting to offer like plugins or third-party apps to do this. But no, built-in stats are native on our platform, and therefore you're going to have the ability to manage and see some of that right in the platform itself. So let me go ahead and show that to you. There we go. So built-in stats. I am the editor of my website here at the Riot website. I come in, right on my dashboard are built-in visits over the last 7 to 30 days, yesterday, whatever you want to see. Are they mobile? Are they desktop? How many visitors I've had? And I can go into full stats. I can come in here and see things like traffic sources, content data, which pages are getting visits, how long the user spent on that page. We won't get into the bounce and exit, but you get stats with it. I'll just say it that way. The engagement, are they clicking on things, pop-ups and page views? The traffic sources, that's a huge deal. Are they coming from, obviously this is a demo site, it's not really out there in the real world per se, but did it come from Google, Facebook? Where did people click to get here? Those are all things that somebody engaging in marketing and SEO wants to know. So guess what? That's baked right into the platform. SEO overview. Click on SEO right in my dashboard and look, boom, several tools baked right here that I don't even have to go into the editor. The SEO overview, it may be my favorite. I love the stats, but I like this one because this one tattles and it tells me, am I missing meta tags on any particular page? Am I missing alt tags on any images? And I happen to know the 6 images because I was doing a demo yesterday and I just threw like a picture of my dog up and didn't fill in the alt text. Guess what? These are things that you have to pay attention to, and I should go and fix it. And if I click fix it, it goes and says, oh, well, here are the 6. Yep, there was a picture of my tree and my dog. That it's telling me I didn't put in alt text. I mean, that's probably my favorite one, the image alt text one, because by the way, that's like the top 3 things that schools get pinged on is forgetting to fill in their image alt text for accessibility, but that crosses over into good SEO practices. So therefore, you've got a baked in tool that helps with both. So the page SEO overview, that also leads me to an AI tool because technically I can use an AI tool. So if I'm doing my meta tags, like if I wanted to go view my meta tags, I can actually use an AI baked in AI tool to generate my initial meta tags. Now, again, anybody who thinks AI is perfect, there's the door because it's not, right? So even if I generated these, I still had to review these and maybe clean them up a little bit, right? Do some human editing of that. But it was a great way to get the bulk of them in there, and then I could just review and fix them. That was just a game changer. Not only helps us as your web designer and host to help launch you, but it gives you a tool to help maintain it over time. I already mentioned the alt text one. It also analyzes your internal links, right? It tells you, whether it, I have some broken links because I've deleted some pages and whatnot. So these are just broken links it's telling me, and it tells me how I can fix it. That's great because broken links also come up in SEO scans and it's not going to bold well. If I actually go into the site, there's some more tools baked into this. So let's go here. I'm going to go to the overview again, but this time I'm going to click on edit. And right here under content, there's something called a business schema that Google loves, other search engines love, but we also use it when we're building the site. And that's this connected data that has to do with your business info. We fill this in when we build your site, but guess what? What you need to do is then sign in with your Google account and connect it to your profile. Like your school is using Google most likely or has an account, so you can connect it to your business profile. Search engines love that. And they look for these kind of pre-tagged fields, and it's just here for you to use. No special coding area that you have to be familiar with. We fill most of this in for you, but you can just sort of update it. Same thing with some extra business text, some business images. This becomes part of your like SEO profile, if you will. And it's just right here, very easy to access and update. And then of course, the individual pages. You're right here in your pages. You're able to come in here and you can look at the page SEO right from the editor. You can go get into the SEO overview from here. You can also just set this to no index. If you're like, hey, I have these outdated pages, but I don't want to delete them. Well, we give you that ability to set this either as a draft or specifically just set it to no index so that you don't get penalized for having outdated, low quality pages. Make sure those are being set to no index. That's just baked right into it. No special place to go find that. It's all right under your nose. So all in all, in summary, SEO, search engine optimization, while technical and complex, it's not all that scary because it's really more about the art of best practices, some of which are simple, like headings and alt text and images. Those are something anybody can do, and you're helping yourself just by doing those little things. Patience is required. It takes time, but just keep it simple. As long as you put user experience first, work on building your identity and brand trust, and just make sure that your quality content is up to date, you're going to be in good shape. RediSite's already built to be SEO friendly. When I launch a site, before you go live, I'm going to scan it with that tool. I always do it. It's sort of like a sticking pride point for me. And if I can get more than 100 or even one is amazing. I like these to be as close to 90s or above in green. Google says, hey, I like this site. So we already launched you as part of being a partner with you. We are your web host and partner. So we offered this webinar, for example, to give people that free information. But you can also go talk to your account manager and learn more about RediSite if you don't have one, or, hey, I'd like to book time with Brandon to talk about and review our SEO. Happy to help. Okay. We already give you those tools baked in as well, where you can go and look at some of that on your own. And I'll leave you with this. And this is one, John, I thank you again for sharing this, but this was a website in the UK, hoboweb.co.uk. They had this leak of information about Google, and this guy wrote this very extensive article analyzing the deep inner workings of Google. And so to summarize it, though, you can obviously go and check that out for yourself, but it used the word quality over 60 times in that article. And it also mentioned many times how low quality penalizes you in a search, right? So it's not about the amount of quantity, it's about quality. And that's also why, everybody, having a nice, well-organized, small website is just going to be better for you. It's better user experience, but it's also easier for you to maintain the quality and freshness of that site. And it's just a better user experience. And that just seems to be reiterated by this very lengthy, deep inner workings of Google. So at this time, we usually leave some time for Q&A and also some final thoughts from our panelists who joined us today. And I've also put up some information that I want to mention about AI, GEO, and LLMs versus traditional. Really in red, I've just highlighted the important piece, which is, oh, Brandon, you didn't talk about the next generation like AI and GEO. Yeah, because the title of the webinar was SEO Basics. And if you don't have the basics down, you're not going to become an expert at GEO without having some quality time with your basic SEO. Because, as you can see in red, there is a lot of overlap, a lot of shared tactics and complementary goals that go into building a site for generative engine optimization or large language models. That gets more into semantics and quality of your writing, the content, and less about some of these concrete things like links and backlinks and structure. It's more about what is the content on the actual pages. And GEO gets less about page clicks that you're receiving and more about, I want the AI tool to use my site. If somebody were to talk about, hey, Catholic schools in Southeast Michigan, where I happen to be from, am I going to get picked up in that sort of summation? So even if you're in the top 20, there's a little less pressure there, but it's also a little deeper when we're talking about the content that you're writing and coming at it from that persona, personalized search, like putting yourself in the shoes of your prospective students and families, and then making sure you're writing the content from their perspective to meet their needs. That's going to help AI. Traditional search is sticking around. That's why I focused on SEO for this. I don't see it going away. It's going to complement one another. That's just how AI and traditional texts like SEO will work. And it still comes down to high quality structured content if you want to be successful in both. John, Jas, thank you for joining. And hey, any thoughts for the audience here today or those who might watch this from home later on?
I'd like to share a few thoughts. This is John Schreck here. I'm Director of Marketing with Rediker. Everything Brandon shared today has been spot on. Just to let the audience know, we here at Rediker, we actually also use Duda for Rediker.com, and that's our global website. We work with K-12 schools around the world. So we trust that platform to run our global website on. It's that good. And Brandon had mentioned some of the SEO tools and settings that are available within Duda. We use all those a lot. Those have been very helpful for me and my staff. We're not all SEO experts. It just makes it a little easier. I'd like to share one thought on getting your backlinks and getting your site listed. For K-12 schools, often you're dealing with a sort of a geographic radius of maybe, a few
Right.
hundred miles around your school. So on those backlinks, and when you're looking for those sites to get your school listed on, keep in mind a lot of the local directory sites or community sites that may be available in your town, in your county, and even in your state. Because you are trying to target an audience from around your area, there's a lot of local websites and local lists for different types of services and schools that you want to consider, as well as the big sites like Google. And then the other thing I wanted to follow up on was Brandon's last slide that talked a little bit about AI and LLMs. That's obviously something that we're working on a lot and talking about a lot here at Rediker as well. And Brandon's points here are all very accurate. You know, some of the same techniques help both. Yes, AI and LLMs are a little different, but also one thing to keep in mind is Google is still the main source for all
The
this.
king. Yep.
Google also presents their own AI overviews where they're drawing from their internal data as well. And it's just so important to focus on the content of your website and the quality of that content. I can't reinforce that message enough that Brandon has been sharing. We recently worked with a consulting company to look at our site and talk about AI and LLMs, and a lot of it just came back to writing articles or writing blog content for your site that talks about what you do, that brings in those keywords that are still so important, and just keeping that fresh, new quality content on your site. So great job, Brandon. We do a lot of the same stuff here in Rediker's marketing department, and these are all great tips.
I love that you mentioned blog, that they brought that and resurfaced that because that just came up in a recent support ticket working with a customer. And I pretty much said the same thing that a blog is a great way to breathe freshness of content in, right? Because if you're doing it sort of weekly, monthly, quarterly, as long as you do it consistently and you write some well done content, you're essentially generating some up to date pages of content on a sort of regular basis. And if you talk about things that are of human interest and targeting your audience, like, hey, we had this great 100-year anniversary mass, if I'm a Catholic school, for example, and you wrote up the special guest and how special the event was, hey, that's awesome. That becomes a blog page, which, 5 years from now, it's still technically in your blog index, but it helps. And then you can go and post a link to that in your social media accounts, and it sort of just spirals. The blog I didn't mention here, but that is a great tool that, yes, is also native, by the way, inside of the RediSite platform. It has a blog just like many of them do. Even consulting firms today would say, hey, maintaining a blog is actually good for your SEO. It's good for human interest as well. And that geographic location, John, was a huge thing because when you use your phone or your computer in those location services, your IP has a zip code, and that zip code, by the way, I want to go too deep with this, but we have tools like I want to run a pop-up on my website. If this person is geographically within X number of miles, the platform has personalization rules that would allow you to even do that, like a geographically triggered pop-up. That is a thing that you can do on a Ready site. So once again, this has been Brandon with special guests John and Jas joining me from marketing, saying, be seen, get yourself out there, learn something from this, put it to practice. It could be something small, just like reviewing your meta title, meta descriptions, and your headings. That would be a big start.